And we're live.
Don't know why I'm holding the mic like that. Kind of episode 10. I didn't want to do that. Kind of episode 10, but a little bit.
Not really.
But not really. Anyway, it's a different format this week. So, Ramaize.
It's time. Fighting. Sorry.
Is that
I'm
the
getting carried
introduction
away.
to the UFC?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's like what you do.
I'm just preparing myself for
same for me though. Like, I can't.
the trip.
WrestleMania. That's like my trying to do an impression of Vince McMahon. He's got that really like weird voice. Like,
Yeah, he has, yeah.
Steroid induced.
Yeah.
You know, like
He got a wench at one point, man.
he's always been wench.
Has he always?
Yeah, he's been
really?
yeah, pretty much. He's like you struggle to find a time in his adult life where he isn't like super. That was his first kind of love, bodybuilding, because initially he wanted to be a wrestler. Way back
He did.
when his dad was a promoter, he wanted to get into the actual, and he's obviously been in the ring a handful of times.
He has.
stuff, but he's just a crazy guy.
He is. But more about that later.
Yeah, so I think we should start with UFC.
Yes.
Let's start with that.
Yes.
So, basically, Ramaize, I'm a UFC novice. I don't watch the UFC. I've watched clips here and there. I know a few names. But I don't really watch UFC. I get the gist of it. Really fascinating stuff. Mixed martial arts, people putting it all on the line and, in the octagon. But I don't really understand it. I don't know about it. I can't sit here and pretend to have an opinion on fighters and all the rest of it. So take it away. Tell us what you're going to be doing in the next week or so.
Okay. So, as I mentioned before, I'm going to be traveling to New York next week.
Wow.
Literally a few days away. And I'm going to watch UFC 223. So, our brother Khabib Nurmagomedov is fighting for the lightweight title against Tony Ferguson. And I've been following Khabib for a very long time. And he is probably my favorite fighter.
Okay.
So I think before I get into the actual fight, I need to let you know what's been happening, right, with that division.
So, without meaning to cut you off, I had two questions already at this point.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to cut you off too much.
No, you can.
What's the 223? UFC 223. Is that just 223rd episode?
Effectively, yes.
Fine. That's answered that. Secondly, what weight class are they fighting at?
Lightweight, 155 pounds.
So basically a bit over 10 stone, about 11 stones.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so just some background information. Everyone's heard of Conor McGregor.
Yes.
Yep, you have as well.
Of course.
So what happened, going back to November 2016, Conor McGregor, for the first time ever, became a 2-division champ in the UFC. He fought a guy called Eddie Alvarez and pretty much demolished him. Now, Eddie Alvarez is an absolute beast, right?
Yeah, okay.
Absolute beast, but McGregor just walked through him.
Was that the one? That wasn't the one punch knockout, was it?
No, that was against Jose Aldo.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I think he knocked him out within 13 seconds.
Yeah, that was when I think everything went massive for Conor after that.
It did.
Sorry, go ahead. I was interrupting you.
He won the featherweight title by beating Aldo, and then he beat Alvarez and won the lightweight title. So what's happened since then is the division's been held up because he's not defended his title. The whole thing's been a bit ambiguous. Nobody knows if he's returning to MMA, if he's going to have another boxing fight. Obviously, he fought Mayweather, and he really held up the division, right? So the guys in the division got super annoyed at McGregor, at Dana White, at the UFC. So what happened was, I believe October 2017, Tony Ferguson fought a guy called Kevin Lee for the interim title.
So they had to kind of like make an interim title. Exactly.
In order not to hold up the division. So he fought a guy called Kevin Lee. Now Kevin Lee is an up and coming star, I would say. Right? He's young, he's around 25 years old. He's the whole package, talks the talk, very good talker. very well-rounded in terms of his skill set, good wrestler, good striker, amazing jiu-jitsu. And I would say he looked pretty good against Tony Ferguson in the first round. He actually mounted him and he pounded the crap out of him towards the end of the first round. And there's a reason I'm telling you all of this.
No, because I get some of these terms. Yeah. I've seen some, like I said, I've seen some stuff. I've watched a few bits. So I'm like...
Tony Ferguson...
I'm following totally.
Tony Ferguson has a crazy jiu-jitsu game.
Right, okay.
Right.
So if you get him to the ground, you're more likely to be in trouble than him because he knows how to get out of it. And
exactly.
He takes the upper hand, you ain't getting out of it.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
But Tony Ferguson came out superior in that fight and he won the interim title. Now, what happened? Tony and Khabib were meant to fight on a number of occasions, but it just didn't materialize. Tony was injured. Khabib was injured. Khabib didn't make weight. He got very sick, was hospitalized because I think his liver was starting to shut down because of the weight cut. And since then...
So what... Sorry, I'm not meaning to keep going.
No, keep asking the questions.
What weight does Khabib walk around at?
Oh, he's heavy, mate. He's heavy. Yeah, he's heavy. I believe he walks around 190.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, he gets quite heavy.
He's about 14 stone then.
He gets quite heavy.
He's about a 14, maybe 15 stone guy.
Yeah.
And he's cutting down to he's cutting off 3-4 stones. No wonder he's struggling.
Yeah. So he was hospitalized around this time. Around this time last year. Yeah, they were meant to fight around this time last year. And what happened was...
So, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep cutting you off. I apologize.
No, keep going.
Why would you not fight at middleweight?
Well, that's a whole nother discussion.
Okay, fine. Let's not get into it then. Let's just keep with this,
Yeah. So they were meant to fight around this time last year, but he was hospitalized the day before.
Wow.
So the whole fight had to be cancelled. The main card was, restructured. And there was a video of Khabib with tiramisu on his table. Now, I take Khabib's word for it that he didn't eat the tiramisu a few days before the fight. But Tony Ferguson, basically took that joke and just ran with it. So, he's, hashtag Team Tiramisu.
You would, wouldn't you?
Tiramisu Tuesdays.
You would take umbrage and you would.
And then a whole bunch of memes went viral. The one that I liked was TiramisuPlex.
Wow.
That's quite good. Whoever made that up. That's quite good. But anyway, so Khabib was under a lot of pressure, right? People are saying he doesn't make weight. People are saying he's always getting injured. So what happened? A few months ago, he fought a guy called Edson Barboza, who's a phenomenal striker. So the UFC, the reason why it did so well was because the whole thing was like a massive science experiment, right? What happens if you throw in a karate guy against a boxer?
Yeah.
What happens? And this is why UFC became so popular and so powerful in the early 90s, because people were so fascinated to see these two martial artists in the octagon and to see who would come out on top. So you had Edson Barboza, who's a phenomenal striker, right? A lot of kicks, a lot of punches, high volume, against Khabib, the grappling expert. So the two collided, and to be honest with you, I'm a fanboy, but at the same time, I was worried. What's going to happen? Because if Edson lands a head kick, you're gone.
Yeah.
And he did kick him a few times. Khabib just walked through it.
Wow. And
for 15 minutes, mate, I don't know if you watched the clips, but he absolutely mauled the crap out of him.
Yeah, I have watched it.
To a point, I think Edson was mentally and physically broken.
Because it must tire you out.
It does.
You just got to wait on your back.
Well, imagine just being on the ground for 15 minutes a brutally strong man just pounding the crap out of you.
You just can't move.
You can't do anything.
He's just getting you.
And that's not a one-off. Khabib has done this throughout his career. He gets on top and he just paralyzes you. You can't do anything. You can't get out.
But then that's going to be interesting because Ferguson's got a great ground game.
He's got very good... Ferguson, I would say, is probably the most well-rounded fighter in that division.
So he knows, as in he's got a well-rounded view on the striking, the grappling,
everything.
Yeah,
okay. Everything.
So what's his style after jiu-jitsu? Is he like a kickboxer?
Well, his style, to be honest, is very difficult to define.
Okay.
Tony Ferguson's style is, I would say, unpredictable.
Okay.
He's just unpredictable, man. He'll strike you from any range, any angle. There are, I don't know if you saw videos, but there are videos of him literally doing a forward roll and grabbing someone's leg.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And you know, he's he's an amazing martial artist. And he's very durable. He's very tough, long limbs, and he's on a 10-fight win streak. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. And they have both fought the same guys. So they both fought a guy called RDA. They both fought a guy called Michael Johnson. They both fought Edson Barboza. And the one thing that's interesting for me is they both fought a guy called Michael Johnson. Now, there is a bit of a debate because Tony Ferguson and Michael Johnson fought early on in Tony's career and he lost to him.
Right, okay.
Right? He lost to him in the UFC. Khabib fought Michael Johnson. Demolished him.
Right, okay.
Did you see that video I sent you?
Yeah.
You have to give up.
Yeah.
I have to fight for the title.
Yeah. But you think that's unfair, a reflection on Tony because it
was very early on in his career.
It's like boxing, isn't it? You know,
it is.
Boxers lose and then they come back sometimes.
Exactly.
Years later, a lot stronger.
But it's this whole thing you can go around in circles. So in the MMA world, there's been a massive split. You've got people saying, "Look, Tony's durable. He's just too unpredictable, too durable, too robust. He's going to win." Then you've got the other party who have said, look at what Khabib has done. 25-0. He hasn't lost once, right? And he's dominated every single person he's fought. And people are saying he's going to do the same thing to Ferguson. So I'm traveling to New York.
Wow.
To support Khabib. And man, I can't wait.
I bet you can't. Who are you going with?
My brother-in-law.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Who's also a huge MMA fan.
Right. And so where are you staying?
I'll be staying in Manhattan, but the fight's in Brooklyn.
And how many days are you going for?
A week.
So you're going to actually experience a bit of New York and stuff as well?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That sounds really, really cool. So who do you think impartially will win?
It's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. A part of me thinks Tony Ferguson is going to win on points. The hardcore fanboy within me is saying Khabib's going to demolish him.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't think it's going to be easy for either party. Yeah,
it sounds it. And so from this, the person who wins this comes away with the interim title.
Oh, no. So this has been very controversial. So maybe I didn't finish my point. So Conor held up the division, fought Mayweather, made, I don't think, like $100 million or something.
Yeah, made a crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
Whatever,
And people are saying that, look, he's not really motivated to fight. He says he is, and he says he wants to return to fighting, I think, later this year. So technically, the UFC hadn't stripped him of the title. I don't think they still have. Right? Officially stripped him of the title. So Dana White came out and said, these guys are going to be fighting for the title. And a whole bunch of journalists asked him this question during the press conference, which was, has Conor been stripped? And he was just going around in circles.
Which means no then.
Which means no. Yeah. But he did clarify later on and he said, this fight is for the lightweight title.
Khabib, Tony Ferguson.
Yes. So I think what they're doing, they're hyping it. And I think they'll probably officially strip Conor, I think maybe on the day or maybe a day before the fight.
Wouldn't they maybe do something like this? There'd be a new title created or whatever. The interim lightweight title, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then they'll do an undisputed. Are you with me? That's what everyone would want to see. So they'll do like
to unify the title.
Ferguson or Khabib, versus Conor as the undisputed.
I think that's how they're trying to hype it, and I think that's how they're ultimately going to sell tickets. You know what's interesting? On a final note, Conor McGregor is going to be there in New York.
Really?
Yeah, because his boy.
That's very interesting.
His boy Artem is fighting. Okay, the Russian Hammer, who's got like.
Is he the one that you jumped in the ring with last time and like started?
No, that was his other friend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The one thing I like about the Irish,
wrestling run-in, that was.
Yeah, they all support one another, which is nice.
Yeah.
But Conor's going to be there, okay, and this is my prediction. I reckon Dana White is hiding something big, and I think, let's just say, I wouldn't be surprised if after the Khabib and Tony fight, Conor jumps in.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about Khabib versus Conor in Russia.
Oof.
And I wouldn't mind traveling to Moscow to see that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind coming with you if you did that. The thing that I find interesting about this as a wrestling fan, and obviously we're going to get into the wrestling stuff, and people who are watching this who like MMA, I don't want to bore them with wrestling stuff, but Dana White, he knows what he's doing to hype, and they're able to do it better than boxing, because boxing is like more of a, I suppose you could say, like, obviously it's one thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because MMA is like there's so many different elements to what goes on in the ring, how it looks and everything else. Like, it can be hyped a bit like wrestling. And I think the thing of having Conor there, the fact that like Conor did a run-in one of the fights, all of this like controversy around the titles and things like this, it's really interesting. Whereas I don't think that can quite happen in boxing in the same way.
No.
Like,
you heard about Dana White offering £500 million or dollars to Joshua?
Or what, to get in the UFC?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I believe not as a UFC fighter, but as like, I think they want to co-promote.
Like a co-promotion?
Boxing. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Very interesting.
That's interesting.
Very interesting. But on a side note, did you see the altercation between Khabib and Conor a couple of years ago?
In the backstage. Yeah, I have seen that.
I think Conor crapped himself.
I don't really know what to make of that. Again,
really?
Like, here's the thing with UFC, and I think this is why Conor's such a massively important thing to them. That felt to me like a backstage thing that they filmed with WWE.
100%.
Where they do like a standoff, and obviously it's not real, but it's like two guys who have got that, there will be a competitiveness there that is real, but obviously it's scripted and no one's going to get hurt, and obviously it's for the promotion of a future event or whatever. And it felt a bit like that. I was like, when watching it, I was like, well, this is just like watching WWE. Like, it was really interesting, but obviously the difference is they get in the ring and they, really do try and, hurt each other, whereas in WWE they get in the ring and they, actually, at least if they're professional guys anyway, they'll do what they can to protect each other and make it look as real as possible.
Exactly.
But I thought that whole standoff was really interesting. And again, I know I keep referencing wrestling, but it's because I've not really sat down and watched UFC like you have. I'm sat down and I'm like, wow, this is like such an interesting thing.
Do you know where that stemmed from?
Where?
Conor McGregor was calling out other fighters.
Really?
Yeah. So he was backstage and I believe he offered out a guy called Tyron Woodley.
I was about to say, it was Tyron Woodley, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tyron Woodley is a monster. Yeah. Welterweight.
Yeah, and he had his shirt off and stuff and he was strutting around, as in Conor was strutting around with his shirt off, and he called out Tyrone. He got in his ear or something and said something.
He did.
And it went a bit funny.
He did.
Yeah.
So Khabib basically said during another interview that, look, he was going on a bit macho and he was offering out other fighters, so I thought, let me see if he wants some.
Like there and then kind of
There and then, yeah. So basically Khabib said to him, what? Do you want to say something? And that's when, security came and stuff like that. But man, listen, Khabib's an absolute monster. 25-0. Phenomenal grappler. He holds, I think, a record for the highest number of takedowns during a fight. I think he fought a guy called Abel and took him down like 25 times.
Whoa.
Literally slammed him like 25 times.
I was watching some stuff. He's super strong. I've seen him like, he's picking up people and stuff. And
he's a monster.
And obviously I saw him training as a kid, wrestling bears and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So you're not dealing with you're not dealing with a normal guy. But I mean, I don't know enough about it to properly comment, and obviously just respect for the sport really, because it's, guys are almost putting their lives on the line. I think probably more so than boxers. The stuff that happens in there and how badly they beat each other up, but super interesting, man.
Yeah.
Again, watching it as a WWE fan, I can see the crossover things in there so many times.
Yeah.
And I think UFC will, in the next 10, 15 years, probably end up overtaking wrestling. I really think that.
You think so?
Yeah, as in I think if Dana White can get the showbiz side of it right.
Yeah.
Can you imagine could you imagine UFC with the entrances that WWE have? Imagine how cool that would be.
That would be
Think
pretty
about
awesome,
it. Man. So you've got rather than two guys going to a ring, and all the fans kind of know.
Did you watch Pride back in the day?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
So Pride was the Japanese version of UFC.
Yeah.
And if you watched some of the entrances,
stuff,
they'll remind you of wrestling.
But I'm thinking in today's 2018, the power of the pyrotechnics and the Titantrons and how good they could make it look.
They could make it look awesome.
Like, everyone could have their own music and all that. I mean, I know they come out to music, but it's not the same. Like, can you imagine them? Because here's the vision in my mind, and I've thought this about wrestling, because I think wrestling will never get left behind, but I think it will get overtaken because people crave something a bit more authentic. And we'll get onto the wrestling aspect of the podcast.
Yes.
But just back to the UFC thing, what I think would be a massive sell to bring over people who are like WWE fans, to bring in new fans, brand new fans as well.
Yes.
Is imagine the razzmatazz of like a really cool entrance, right? But then unlike wrestling, where you pretty much know who's going to win that match, you know what's going to happen. You actually don't know what's going to happen. So you've got the razzmatazz of the, if you want to call it like a fake entrance, like, it's an entrance and it's just crazy or whatever. Yep. But then in the ring, it's real. I mean, that is an interesting proposition.
Very interesting.
Even if you do backstage promos like wrestling and you do backstage stuff, again, it's half real, half fake because it's a promo and it's a bit like hyping and stuff. But then you mix that with something real. That's fascinating.
It is.
Because the best WWF matches, WWE, as it's now called, are when you've got the razzmatazz, but the fans don't quite know what's going to happen. And there is that feeling, at least, of authenticity.
Yeah.
Vince created it back in 1998 with Mike Tyson, when they did Mike Tyson as a special guest ref at WrestleMania.
I remember watching that.
And they had Austin and Mike Tyson kick off with each other.
Yeah.
And what I found out about that in later years, that actually they put Mike Tyson in the ring and didn't tell Mike Tyson what was going to happen.
Yes.
But they surrounded him with security to make sure that he would never be able to punch anybody. And then they put Austin in there and they just got Austin hyped up to like, because Austin pushes him.
Yes, he does.
And it's real.
Yes.
But obviously they managed to create that feeling.
Yes.
And that was when really WWE went from being in competition with WCW to really massively moving forward, because that WrestleMania was so popular because they made it feel authentic.
Yes.
And but I mean, taking that now one step further and actually people knowing that it's a real fight, I think it's really interesting.
Definitely.
Like imagine a UFC, but the stadium looks like a WWF stadium. I mean, that is pretty awesome. And they'd get more bums on seats as well. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Because it goes from being just a show that everyone liked, that MMA fans like, to a show that everyone can watch. Exactly. To some extent. Exactly. It's still going to be edgy because you've got blood and you've got real fighting. So it's still not maybe going to be a family sport in the way wrestling was, which is why I say wrestling will always be there. Yes. But I think it would bring in a hell of a lot more people if they... I agree with you. And I'm no doubt in my mind that Dana White's probably already got these ideas and probably already... I think so. In discussions. I mean, I think if WWE were really clever, but they're a bit too insular, they'd probably potentially look at doing something joint with UFC. I wouldn't be surprised. Because obviously you've had Brock come over, and we're going to talk about Brock in a bit. You had Brock being WWE from before, and then he's come back. You've got Ronda Rousey who's now come across the WWE. Yeah. So it's not like they can't show a crossover. And obviously you've had wrestlers going to MMA as well, like Batista, CM Punk, Bobby Lashley, Ken Shamrock's started off in MMA, came over to WWE, and Steve Blackman, if you... Yes, I remember Blackman. Dan the Beast Severin. Yeah. Early day guys. Yeah, yeah. Old school guys, man. Old school guys who were fighting in the... But vets. Yeah, veterans who were like really well respected. So it's interesting. Really interesting. And we're live. The Attic Podcast. Unfortunately, I am without Mr. Mosley today. Shout out to Mr. Mosley. And the reason for that is basically this. Imran and I recorded an MMA episode on Sunday where I gave him an overview of Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. But as the MMA community will know, unfortunately, Tony Ferguson got injured a few days ago with a knee injury. Apparently it was a freak accident. He turned around to say hello to someone and he tripped and twisted his knee, which forced him out of the fight. So
as our viewers and listeners will know, I'm traveling to New York for the UFC event 223, and I'm actually flying out tomorrow. So I thought it would be beneficial to give a brief overview of Max Holloway versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. So moving forward, Max Holloway, being as Dana White says, the absolute stud that he is, he stepped up on 6 days' notice and he's agreed to take the fight. Now, I believe Max Holloway is walking around at 187 pounds. Well, he was at that weight. He was at that weight, I believe, a few days ago. And genuinely, I have no idea how he's going to drop down. Now, Max Holloway is an absolute beast, right? His stand-up is amazing. He's very durable, very tough, amazing chin on him. I believe he's on a 13-fight win streak. The only person he lost to on points was Conor McGregor in the UFC, and I believe that was back in 2013. So he's been on an amazing run since then, and he's done a phenomenal job in terms of building himself as a real superstar in the UFC. I'm a big Holloway fan, and he's proven himself time and time again to be a very tough fighter. With that being said, I do believe fighting Khabib is not going to be easy because stylistically, he's never fought anyone like Khabib before, especially someone as dominant as Khabib in terms of grappling, in terms of brutal strength. I don't believe he's fought anyone with that level of grappling. And I think the weight cut is going to be a tough weight cut for him because he's quite heavy at the moment, and I'm not too sure how much that's going to affect his performance on Saturday night. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I predict we're going to see something very similar to Khabib versus Barboza. Barboza, again, amazing striker. A real veteran in the sport. He's fought, the big guys, big names. And I think in terms of stand-up, he's probably one of the best guys in the lightweight division. And, we all saw what Khabib did to him last year. So I fear the same thing will happen to Max Holloway. Although I do believe Max Holloway is more dangerous standing up than Edson and Ferguson as well, to be honest, simply because he's not afraid to just stand there and exchange. He'll go blow for blow, no hesitation, right? Which is quite, it can be quite intimidating for your opponent. Anyway, it's a tough one. Obviously I booked my tickets for the New York trip on the basis that I was going to see Tony Ferguson and Khabib fight. But, it's fallen through. It is what it is, as Max Holloway would say. Tony Ferguson, I'm a fan. He's a bit of a strange guy. He's a bit weird. And, he was caught kicking poles, which I believe was actually something that was filmed for one of his last fights last year, I believe. But for whatever reason, it was released a few days ago, and, all sorts of memes came out saying that, this is what happens when you kick poles, you mess up your knee. And then I messaged a few friends and I said that it's because of his salsa dance. So basically, Tony Ferguson put out something on Instagram a few days ago where he was dancing to some music, and it's quite comical. It's quite comical. That would be interesting. That would be interesting if that were the real reason why his knee messed up. But anyway, apparently it was a freak accident. And another thing that I found fascinating was that other fighters were apparently offered the fight, right? So this is where Khabib's, as he calls, true talk, okay? He commented on some of the other fighters. Apparently Eddie was offered the fight. Eddie Alvarez, who's an absolute beast, but I think he's too heavy at the moment, so he couldn't make it. Conor McGregor is quite interesting because I think the UFC asked Khabib who he wanted after the whole Ferguson thing fell through. He said, "I want Burger King." I want Burger King. But Dana White said, no, we can't get Conor McGregor because, a lot of promotion needs to go into hyping up the fight, selling tickets, and it's not something he wants to put together on short notice, which is fine. It's understandable. Brian Ortega was offered the fight as well, and he accepted, but once Dana found out that Holloway accepted, obviously I think Holloway and Khabib were going to ultimately sell more tickets. I believe if they stay standing, Khabib is going to have issues. And I'm a huge Khabib fan. It's the reason I'm going to New York to watch him fight, to support him, and we hope that he wins the title and he becomes the UFC's lightweight champion of the world. But that's basically it. That's all I wanted to say to our viewers and listeners, that I will be traveling to New York to watch this event, and you can follow the Attic Podcast. Follow our Instagram, the Attic Podcast UK. That's it from me, and it's time.